Hey, it's Gail with Gail's Gardening, and today we are going to do a tomato garden tour. Yes, yes. It is May 30th, 2020, and I am in Eastern Tennessee, Zone 7A, which is way different from when I was growing in South Florida. Anyway, I do have some tomatoes to show you, and let's go ahead and go to the first garden. This first tomato is called Alice's Dream. Now these poles are 4 feet tall, but by the time you figure that they're in a foot of soil, they're about 3 feet. So this particular tomato is about 3 feet. I planted it probably in late February. Let's see. If I take a look down there, oh, okay, mid-March is when I planted this out, or rather I planted the seed, I should say. And I can see that I have plenty of tomato blossoms. I don't have anything setting fruit yet, but I have more up here. I probably have more in other spots. I forgot to mention with Alice's Dream, the kind of tomatoes, they are mostly a slicing beefsteak type, and they're supposed to be, let's see, kind of yellow orange with some striping and then some purple shoulders. So that is going to be a very interesting combination. It is a cherry tomato plant, and this one is called Tennessee Yellow Cherry. I believe this one has already set some fruit, which wins the prize for my first large plant to set fruit. I have a Determinate, miniature tomato that has already set fruit, but it's an early plant, etc. But anyway, has lots of flowers on it, lots more blossoms. I'm looking forward to seeing what this one's like. Here I have a plant called Stormin Norman. And again, these are 3-foot poles or 4-foot poles, so it hasn't quite reached the top of it yet. Now this one is a multi-flora. And by that, we mean that it sets lots and lots of blossoms. So each truss of blossoms has a whole bunch of them. These are kind of a grape tomato, as I understand. I think they are kind of reddish or something. I think they might have stripes. But I thought, well, I'd like to try a multi-flora, and this one looked kind of interesting. Now, normally I don't go in for grape tomatoes that much, but it's supposed to be sweet, so we'll see. Looks like I planted the seeds for this one in the middle of March as well. So you can see it's just, I don't know, not quite 3 feet tall. Still in the backyard, and this one is called Earl's Faux. This one has pink beefsteak slicing tomatoes. I think I planted this one, let's see. Looks like it's another mid-March one. I think the tomatoes are supposed to be somewhere in the vicinity of 12 ounces or so, and the flowers look to be fairly good sized. This one has been ravaged a bit. This area gets a little bit more wind than some of the other areas, and I had a slug problem back here. But otherwise, this one seems to be growing well. It is a potato leaf, as you can tell, instead of a traditional leaf. So, potato leaf. Well, here we have another Alice's Dream, and I probably planted this about the same time I planted the rest of them, which is mid-March. Dwarf Wild Fred. This one is only going to get to be about 4 feet tall. It is a dwarf, as it sounds. This is a mid-March planting, and again, it seems small, but I tell you what I did is I kind of got this one left out. I forgot it. It was kind of in the back, and it got a little root bound, so I'm hoping it'll grow better. Right here we have a Blue Beauty. And this one I planted in early April. Now, I have another Blue Beauty that, well, you'll see it in just a moment. I was thinking that something was wrong with it, and when I take a look at this one, I'm not sure anything was wrong with it. I think it's either the seeds or the plant. This one has blue tomatoes. So it's the anthocyanin, so they're not really blue, but they're supposed to be kind of striped, and they're supposed to be very tasty, so we'll see what ends up happening with those. I have another Earl's Faux growing here by the compost bin. Yay! This one was probably planted about the same time as many of the others, which is mid-March. This one's a little shorter, but I replanted it into its final container only about 2 weeks ago. So it has some catching up to do with the others, and I replanted them into their final containers maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now this little guy is called Aussie. It's supposed to have large tomatoes, like in the 2 to 3 pound range. I don't know that they're going to get that here because of my limited sun. And by that I mean that I get maybe 4.5 hours of direct sun and another 2 to 3 hours of dappled sun. But even if I get just a few really large ones off this one, I will be very, very happy. Again, it's not in its final container. It's just in a 1 gallon grow bag that is really only having about a half gallon at the moment. So there's Aussie. 2 more that I have that are getting ready to go into their final homes pretty soon. This one is Rosey Falls, and this one I don't remember what it is because there is no tag on it. Could be another Aussie, but I'm not sure. Alright, over here another tagless tomato, so yeah, who knows. All I know is it's growing. Here's another one that is in its final home. It's in a 1 gallon grow bag, but it's a miniature tomato. It's called Jochalos. And I planted this one at the beginning of April. It's starting to put out its first flower. Yay! So I did grow one of these hydroponically. I wasn't really impressed with the tomatoes all that much, but it could be because I grew them hydroponically. And I'm really looking forward to having them from the garden. This next tomato is another Stormin Norman, and you can see that actually this one's probably a little bit taller, and it's definitely bushier than the one out back. Now I think I probably did put this one into its final pot a little, actually no I didn't. This one got put into its final pot a few days after the one out back. As you can see, it has some improvised stakes when it kind of fell over. It's got a 3-foot stake, and it's also got a 6-foot stake. So you can tell that I'm preparing, so to speak. Okay, back here we have another Earl's Faux, and this one is just about to the top of the 4-foot stake. So that means it's just about 3 feet tall. I do have it with a 6-foot stake, so I am hopeful that I will need it. Another, again, it's a potato leaf plant, and the potato leaf, you can see that it has the big leaves compared to our friend Stormin Norman here, and this one has regular tomato leaves. And I forgot to show you, Stormin Norman has a whole bunch of flowers on it. For right there, it's putting out another truss here. Lots and lots of tomatoes on the way. Now this one is Blue Beauty. This is the original one that I planted. I mean, the plant really does seem kind of wimpy compared to some of the others. Now I did do some pruning of it, but not as much as it might look like. This one actually probably gets some of the most sun back here. So I'm not sure why it is, and that's why I grew the other one, because I wanted to see if it was the seeds, if it was the way I planted it, or what. Now this is from a failed hydroponic experiment. I tried growing them hydroponically indoors during the winter, like January or so, February. And it started off beautifully, and then it just crashed and burned. I thought, well, let me try to go ahead. I put it in a 1 gallon container of soil, net pot and all. I mean, I just plunked it in there. and set it outside in a very protected area where it was going to get more sun. That was in probably late February. We're having a warm winter, so I figured, oh, it's okay to put it outside. Let's just say that that was a failed experiment. I will not be growing or planting seeds in January anymore for tomatoes. It does have a lot of flowers on it, but the last freeze that we had, and let me get in closer to it, the last freeze we had aborted a lot of the blossoms. Now for these, I don't think that I'm getting any tomatoes off these. I mean, it doesn't really look like the blossoms set. I don't know about the ones in back. The ones up here, now you can see that I've got a really nice big blossom. Oops, but I'm not sure how well that's going to do. So, failed experiment. I'm going to let it grow and see what happens just out of curiosity, because next to this spindly looking plant I have Girl's Weird Thing. And this is also from the failed hydroponic experiment. Yeah, as you can see, this one, and I have pruned this one a fair amount, and you can see how big and lush it is. So this is Girl's Weird Thing, and it is supposed to have, I think, red with green stripes. When fully ripe, it's supposed to be like a slicer beefsteak type. And it also had a slight issue because we had the late freeze. I guess it was the beginning of May or middle of May, and we had a freeze. I wasn't expecting that. So you can see this red plastic here. It's actually kind of a tube that I pulled up and over these 4-foot stakes. And as you can tell, it's way surpassed the 4-foot stakes, and these are the 6-foots. So you can tell it's getting big. This has loads of flowers, the first set. Obviously, they aborted due to the freeze because it still got pretty cold out here. It was in the upper 30s, so. But it has some nice large blossoms. So looking forward to getting some tomatoes off of this one. Now next to Girl's Weird Thing is Vorlon. You can see there are my 6-foot stakes. He is another failed hydroponic experiment. Now in this particular case, I did the same thing. It was growing well, and then it just kind of died off. I grabbed it net pot and all, stuck it in a pot, stuck it outside just like I did Blue Beauty, and it kind of grew. I was getting ready to throw it out, and then I decided, what the heck, I'll just go ahead and plant it back here, hope for the best. It also had a bunch of aborted flowers, so you can see the blossoms are really pretty big. But this one didn't make it, no tomatoes sadly. But I'm hopeful that maybe this one will go ahead and produce. But we also have a few more blossoms here, some more in back. We have more blossoms, or blossom sets coming up. So I am hopeful to get some tomatoes off this. Now I've nicknamed this plant Kosh. Normally I do not name plants, but this is in honor of Babylon 5, the character named Kosh, who is a Vorlon. And this one is supposed to be a cross, I think, between Cherokee Purple and something else. It's open pollinated, as are pretty much all my tomatoes except for one. I planted all my tomatoes from seed, and this one, like I said, it's a failed hydroponic, but I think it's probably a success in the garden. So this tomato is a red Brandywine potato leaf. Now I'm growing this one instead of the pink Brandywine that I would normally grow, because again, pink Brandywine has not produced the best for me in the past. Might do better here in Tennessee, but the red Brandywine potato leaf is supposed to be just about as good tasting, and it's supposed to be more productive. Okay, here's another dwarf tomato. It is called New Big Dwarf. I'm really looking forward to trying this one out. It only grows about 4 feet tall. It is a determinate tomato, but it's supposed to set rather large fruits, I think 8 to 12 ounces, which is really big for a determinate tomato. Okay, this little tomato plant is out on my front yard, and this one is called Jochalos. It's a second plant. I think I have one out on the side yard, and it is also setting blossoms. It's setting more blossoms than the other one was. They were planted probably about the same time, but this area gets a little bit more sun than it does back in the back. Okay, over here we have red robin. Now this one's an interesting plant. It wins the prize for the first sets of tomatoes, so it's setting tomatoes before anything else. It even beat out the yellow cherry in back because this one started setting fruit sooner. This is interesting. I think I planted this back in, let's see, I planted this in February 10th. Kept it inside for a while, and then I finally set it out probably along the lines of middle to late March. I set it out here. Now this is kind of a protected area. This is the front porch, like I say. Even in the freeze that we had in May, I did not bring this inside. I know, I'm mean. I'm a bad tomato mommy. I did not bring this one inside. I left it out here. I had it up against the house. I don't really see any damage aside from maybe a few leaves down there, which may not be from frost at all. But up here, it didn't freeze. It didn't get down to freezing. So kudos to this plant. Yes, I will grow red robin again in the future. This pretty plant is called Dwarf Arctic Rose. This is about as big as it's going to get. It is a determinate, and you can see it's setting tons and tons of flowers. So I'm looking forward to having some tomatoes forming off of this one pretty soon. It's done real well for me. I planted it, let's see if I can see, I planted it back at the end of February, so planted the seeds, that is, because all my tomatoes and all my peppers I started from seed. So this is Dwarf Arctic Rose. This is my unknown pepper. I lost the tag. I have no idea what it is. Aside from the fact that I know it's a dwarf, I believe it's an indeterminate. I will know better when the fruit sets or when I see the fruit coming out. It might be Brandywine, which is an indeterminate. I don't know. So we'll see. This is a pretty tomato plant. It's only going to get about to the top of this pole, which is, so this will be up here from the ground up to here is about 3 feet or so. So it'll grow maybe a little bit taller than that, but that's about it. So this is my unknown tomato plant. Now I think that's it for all the tomato plants that I have. So I hope you've enjoyed this particular video. If you have, thumbs up, like and subscribe. This is Gail signing out for the day, saying have yourself a great day and happy gardening. Bye.